Can't be that.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Danielle Mitchell. I'm the CEO and founder of Black Women in Clinical Research. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tonight, we're going to be talking about veterans in the clinical research industry. I have with me my host, Jazmin Barnes, and I also have Courtney. Hey, Courtney Barnes. I'm gonna say early. Maybe y'all know each other because y'all related. Did y'all find
Long
out?
distance cousin,
Okay. Did y'all?
Right.
Courtney, you have any family in North Carolina?
Girl, I'm from North Carolina.
What part?
I'm from Goldsboro originally, but I have family sprinkled all over North Carolina and all over the East Coast, actually. So,
Wilson?
oh, girl.
Because you
Yes.
really might be my cousin then, for real. You really might be my cousin.
Oh, seriously?
Well, I married into the Barnes name, but I wouldn't doubt if y'all were related too, because my
Hey,
husband's
cousin.
family.
Yep.
Hey, cousin.
There you go.
Yes.
I was like, wait a minute. And well, that's great. I hope y'all find out if y'all are related, because that would be even more special if y'all can come back and be like, we found out that we family. Okay, well, Crystal is joining us, but she's probably going to be joining us a little bit late. And so before we get started, I'd like to have my host introduce herself, my co-host, Jazmin.
Hi, my name is Jazmin. I currently serve as the brand ambassador leader for Black Women in Clinical Research, and I'm also a CRA1.
Thank you, Jazmin. And Courtney, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Courtney Smith Troxler-Barnes. I am a fairly new member of Black Women in Clinical Research. I started in March. I think I joined in March. And since then, it's just been a whirlwind for me. And I am recently been appointed as a CRA apprentice. So I'm excited about that.
Well, thank you. So, Courtney, I like to start with, since you are a veteran, if you can tell us about, being a veteran and your experience with the military.
So I started back in 2007 is when I joined. I was 20 years old. I joined as a combat medic. And so I did that for 9 years. Over that course of time, I did a lot of patient care, cross-trained in a lot of different sections, learned as much about the healthcare system as I could. After that, I was transitioned into the healthcare human resources field and patient administration field. So I was able to really get down into the nuts and bolts of what documentation in healthcare looks like, and why it is important. And so all of that combined is what brought me to where I am currently.
Thank you, Courtney. So I know a lot of times too, when I meet veterans and I guess before we even dive in, I'm gonna tell you guys how I met Courtney. So I met Courtney at the SCRS Diversity Summit, and she was talking to me, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, she looked familiar, but we was just talking, and I don't know if you was like, do you know who I am? I don't know if you said it to me or I can't remember.
I think someone asked me who I had applied to or where I was applying to. And I was like, well, actually, Danielle suggested that I apply for this program. And you were like, huh? And I was like, yeah, you don't remember? Like, we've been talking. And you was like, we have? It's like, yes.
So I don't know if anyone knows this, but a lot of times if we talk in, the inbox, and I've never met you in person. Sorry, put this up, this cell phone. Okay. I mean, not the laptop. So if we have never met in person, I'm like, I got to think about it. Like, oh yeah. But once I realized who Courtney was, I was like, yes, we've been talking for a long time. So yes, and when I met Courtney, it was immediately I was like, okay. I was like, I felt like I've known you, and I just immediately felt when I met Courtney, just the type of person that she is. I was like, you seem like a CRA. So I had already before she even, I think before, maybe even before you even really did the program, or maybe in the beginning, I told her, I was like, you just the way that you carry yourself, I was like, you strike me as a person you're already in the industry. So, that was like the first thing that I noticed about Courtney. So ever since then, we have been messaging each other and just providing as much support. I tell her now that we tell each other that we're best friends now. It was just crazy to know that she became a CRA just after, not even that long after I met you at the SCRS.
Yeah, because I actually wanted to get into data. I was like, no, I want to do data. I want to do data management. You were like, no, you look like a CRA. And I was like, girl, no, that's not what I want to do. And literally like the Monday after, I had the interview for the program and they were like, all right, we want to extend the offer. And I was like, dang, all right, I see you, Danielle. You can pinpoint them. So all right, I'm gonna take this ride and see where it takes me.
Yes, well, I'm so glad you did. So, okay, let's jump into the questions. So, I know a lot of times people who are transitioning from the military, they're not always sure what opportunities are available for veterans in clinical research. So, I know, from talking to you that before you got in, that you did a lot of research. And so, what are some of the opportunities that are available for veterans?
So that's the funny thing, right? Because a lot of times, especially in the group, there are a lot of CRAs in the group. There are a lot of trial coordinators, research coordinators. And so that's where a lot of the information is coming from. So a lot of people think that that's like the only option, but it really isn't. One thing that I have learned during my research and during my time where I currently am employed, I've learned that there are so many different things that translate very well into what we do in the military. There's contracts, there's regulatory, there's quality assurance, there's supply. There are so many different finance, like there's so many different things that we're not aware of that can translate. And what's funny is that a lot of people in the civilian world, in the clinical research realm, they don't understand that us as veterans, the situations that we experience in our day-to-day translates into the civilian world properly. And there's a lot of things that we can really bring to the table, especially with the things that we see. So I think that what people need to understand is when you're coming out of a military setting, a lot of times the job that you did in the military exists in the research world.
Oh, that's amazing. I know that will be very helpful. Recently, I've seen on LinkedIn, there's been a lot of veterans that have been posting about trying to transition into the civilian life, and they're finding it difficult because these opportunities are not being presented to them when they're in the military and when it's time for them to transition. So that just brings a question to me, how did you even stumble upon clinical research?
So I have a lot of friends in healthcare. I've been in healthcare for like 16 years, 17 years now. I've been in healthcare. So I've had a lot of time to talk with a lot of civilians that I've made friends with over time, a lot of my friends who have transitioned out of the military. And one of my friends, actually, she and I were talking, and I was just, trying to figure out what I was going to do. I was out of the military, COVID happened, so I took a year off. I was doing the mom thing, and I'm like, well, I want to get back to work. But I know that I don't want to do patient care anymore. I want to kind of stick to what I was doing my last positions. I really, really loved that. And so she and I were talking, and she's like, yeah, well, I'm a coordinator and this is what I do. And I'm like, oh, that seems interesting. So she's like, yeah, research it a little bit. Tell me what you think and we'll see, how things go. And then she added me to the group. And once I was added to Black Women in Clinical Research, I started going through a lot of the posts and just really finding a lot of things that resonated with me and what I wanted to do in healthcare and what I wanted to do for the world. And so it was just kind of like, okay, I think this is where I need to be. And ever since then, I haven't looked back.
So networking is what brought you over to the clinical research side.
Oddly enough, yes.
I was saying, so people on the call, definitely the importance of networking and how it can bring you into a career that you never considered. So I know we kind of already touched on this. What experience is necessary to land, would you say, a role in clinical research?
Um, I think it depends on where you want to be. Like I said before, I feel that a lot of times people coming from a military stance, they they do this one particular thing for 20 years or more, right? Um, and sometimes that thing is what they love to do and they want to do that for the rest of their lives or whatever. So they take that into their next careers. And sometimes they just want to make a complete pivot. Um, I think one thing that needs to really be placed out there is that any experience is relevant to research, any experience. So I feel like those of us who are coming out of the uniform, the things that we have done can definitely be translated. People think that you need a doctorate's degree, a master's degree. A lot of times you don't. A lot of times an associate's degree, a certificate can get you into clinical research as long as you align yourself properly with, you know, those particular things that you are good at and you love to do and you do well.
That is amazing. You definitely have to figure out what your strong points are. And, you know, because when it comes to clinical research, and Courtney and I have talked about this before, there's not really a map, like, especially if you're from the military, that says, okay, well, this is the position that you have in the military. So this is how this translates over into the clinical research world. And I think a lot of times people think, you know, if they're starting in a new industry, that they have to start from the bottom, but that's not always the case. And, you know, Courtney, you know, is definitely a testament of that. So having her military experience and going right into a CRA, you know, you don't have to start as a CRC or, you know, a CTC with a military background because of what you guys have experienced and the training, the vigorous training that you guys go through with just learning so much. And, you know, and I didn't share this before, but my father was in the military. So he was in the Navy. He did reserve for what I think like 20 years. So, you know, seeing my father and going through what, you know, he went through with the military, I used to think as a child, I'm like, my dad is really smart because of just, you know, all the stuff that he would tell, like he would explain to me, like, you know, the military training and what they taught him. And, you know, so for my father, and I'm just using for example, he went from being in the military to becoming an engineer. So, you know, his experience in the military translated into an engineer position. And so maybe we can figure out a way where we can inform the military, you know, about clinical research more, or do something, you know, I guess, so people know about it, because I don't know what it is, but I've just been seeing so many posts about people from the military that are just not feeling like they are fitting into the right role for them and are having to take less positions. I seen one lady, she was coming out from the military and she said that she was going to become a waitress. And I was just like, oh my goodness, let me reach out to her and tell her about clinical research, you know, because especially serving your country and everything like that. And I should have started this from the beginning. Also, Courtney, thank you for your service and what you have done and your sacrifice, you know, for all of us. So my pleasure. So, okay. So a lot of times too, you know, when you're going from the military and, you know, some of the things that are important is the salary. So what, you know, kind of with the salary role for your apprentice program and some maybe the other military programs that you've seen, what is the salary range for these positions?
So the salary range for a lot of these positions could start around 50, from CRC roles to the six-figure range if you're looking into like project management and, you know, managerial roles, director roles. So it's a very it's a wide range, but that just tells me that there's room for growth. You know, you can always, you know, fall in on something lesser paying, if you will. But what I like to tell a lot of my past soldiers when they're looking for positions after you remove yourself from the military, I think what you should be focusing on is anything around what our base salary is. So whatever you left and what your base salary was at the time of you leaving, that is what you should be looking for and above that, because you're able to do it. You're capable of receiving that.
Thank you. I know that, that kind of, and they don't always tell you, so you don't really know until you either ask someone or, Black Women in Clinical Research, I was putting a little plug here. Black Women in Clinical Research has, information where we talk about salaries. We don't want for people to leave money on the table. So we are very transparent when it comes to that. So another question that I have, now that you are a CRA, how do you manage remote work? How are you, prioritizing? Do you feel like the military has prepared you to be organized in this way? Could you share and shed some light on how, how does that work for you being remote now?
So I will say that, and I can only speak for myself when it comes to military organization. It's always an organized chaos. And I feel like that's what clinical research is. It's like you have set things that you should probably do during the day, but you always have that one pressing thing that comes forward that you're like, okay, I need to kind of maybe put this to the side for a second and handle this and then come back to what I was doing. So it's all about what is important for the moment, if you will. And I know that's kind of vague, but it's the truth. It's like, you have certain things that pop up that are more important than what your day-to-day is supposed to be, or what you think your day-to-day is supposed to be. But you also have the autonomy to set the parameters for what your day is supposed to be. So, you get your list of, you get your trials and you see the things that you need to kind of keep up on. And as long as you can say, okay, I've checked this during the week, then everything else should be okay to fall where it may. And if it doesn't get done, just like the military, it'll be there tomorrow.
Very true. I know for me, when I was working in the science industry, I would put flags on things that were red. So if it was red, then I knew that I needed to get to this as soon as possible. And then I would put like yellow. And then, when I would change it, then now I would know, okay, I did this. So now it's green. So it's good to go. So, because a lot of times what I would do is end up going back to stuff that I've already completed. I'm like, why is this here? So I think, prioritizing that and knowing what is I need to do right now, I can, okay, once after I finish all the, I guess, in a sense, the emergency stuff, and then, having, okay, well, I can work on this next, and then having a complete file so you can really see your progress that you have made. And so thank you for sharing. I hope this is very helpful to people. I feel like you said, organized chaos. I think that is a great way to put it. So I am going to pass it over to Jazmin.
Hey, y'all. Being that the CRA apprentice program that you're in is dedicated to veterans, was there any advanced degree or certification required for your role?
No, they actually want you to not have any type of experience in clinical research at all. So the one thing that got me over, I guess, is the fact that I had a bachelor's degree already. And from what I can tell from others that are in my current cohort, there is no specific degree that you need to have. There is no specific avenue that you need to come from. There's a teacher, there's an ex-science teacher in my current cohort. So, there's physical therapists, there's physical therapy assistants, it doesn't really matter as long as you can do the work. And as long as you can attest to work that you've done in the past that aligns with the clinical research realm, you're a shoo-in for the program.
Well, that's good to know. A lot of people come from various backgrounds and wonder often how they could fit in, but it's good to know that there's a spot for everyone essentially. Are there
Oh yeah, for
any
sure.
like continuing education courses you suggest veterans to take, or just kind of get in where you fit in?
I think the best way is to kind of get in where you fit in. I know one continuing ed course that I took was I did a free GCP
Mhm.
um, certification through,
Was it
I can't
NITA?
remember. Yes, yes, I did it through there. So I was able to do that. That was pretty quick and easy. It would just give a brief overview of what the good clinical practices are, no matter what position you find yourself in clinical research. That's something that you're going to have to know. So it's not necessary, but if you want to kind of start off with something just to kind of get an overview, that would be a good thing to do. It doesn't take long.
Yeah, I definitely agree in getting the GCP, but NITA is free, y'all, capital free. So definitely get
Mhm.
it, and it doesn't take long to complete. From my understanding, and I am a CRA, I know the role can be very challenging at times. What challenges do you face in your role?
So currently, I think the most challenging thing that I've faced is just kind of trying to figure out the language, because coming from the military, we do kind of have our own language when it comes to certain acronyms and just certain things that we say, certain jokes that we make. So just trying to learn the language coming from a space where their language was different has been kind of difficult for me. But I'm catching on, and I'm catching on quickly. It's not too far off from what I already know. And also just trying to be, um, trying to give my best effort with what I know and understanding that, I am allowed a certain level of grace because I don't know a lot of things. Um, Coming from a military background, it's kind of hard to give yourself that grace because so many things are just instilled in our brains that we should automatically know.
Mhm.
But in this world, it's just kind of like, no, we understand that you might not know because there's just so many different things going on. There's so many different things to learn. I've been definitely told by my manager and by my director that they don't expect us to know everything. Um, they just expect us to know a little bit about some things and just be able to find where to, look for the other answers to the questions we might not know.
That makes perfect sense. It's definitely important to show yourself grace because even though I had prior experience before becoming a CRA, there are a lot of acronyms I did not know in the role. And I still don't know because everyone creates their own acronyms as well.
Right.
Being that you're starting out as a CRA, where do you see your future going in clinical research?
So, like I said before, when I first really found out about clinical research, I thought my place would be in data management. I have a bachelor's degree in informatics.
Ooh,
So, yeah,
that's
data
pretty
is
cool.
like data is like my jam. So that's where I thought I was going to end up. But the way things are going now, I think I'm just going to allow myself to enjoy the ride and just kind of let the chips fall where they may, let the universe do its work.
Yeah, that's definitely like the best way to do it because we change and roles change. Do you ever see yourself going like into data? Like, or again, you're just going with the flow so far.
I, I'm going with the flow so far. I would really love to focus more on data. And it's just so funny because I think when I was doing my interview, I really think that the ones who were interviewing me listened to me very well because I find myself in my particular program, the things that I have been assigned to so far have definitely been data based. And
Mm.
so, yeah, so it's definitely been like, okay, you guys are listening to me. All right. So I like it, but, show me more. So I don't know. I just want to be open to whatever.
I definitely agree because again, you'll change, but it sounds like you're data CRA or maybe a combination. Who knows?
Maybe.
Is there any advice you would give a veteran that wants to get into clinical research? Anything you would suggest for them to do or connect, network, anything?
Definitely network, and start networking before you remove the uniform. Um, making those connections are important. Even if you decide that you want to stay in the uniform, there are research programs in the military. I know here in San Antonio, and this happens to be like the military medical hub, but there are a lot of different research programs here on Fort Sam Houston and on Lackland and on Randolph. So, if you find yourself that you're here, look into those positions. I think General Dynamics is one of those companies that are hiring for those positions. Even if you want to do some volunteering, like take some time to go and find a space near you that is doing research. Volunteer, ask to maybe help do some filing, just to maybe get around those in research to see what's really going on and how you might be able to fit in better.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for answering my questions. For veterans that are interested in those programs, will they just like search it? I'm not really too familiar, like if there's like a database you guys look in or how things are done.
So there is a few databases, and I'm sure, there are different branches, so everybody has their own different database. I know for Reserve and National Guard Army soldiers, there's a website called Tour of Duty. They might have some research positions that are available that are non-MOS specific. But I will be honest with you, the one thing that I have learned in the last maybe 7 years of my career is how to use Google. I promise you, if you just Google some keywords or even get on like LinkedIn or Indeed and just put in some keywords, if you're a finance person, say, okay, finance, clinical research, jobs will pop up, internships will pop up.
I like that. Would you suggest like a veteran apply to like an internship or just go for the actual role or either one?
You go for the gusto, but you also can't limit yourself. So
Right.
Everything that's available to you, apply for it. You never know who's going to give you that chance.
I definitely agree. Y'all hear that though? Use Google. It's my best friend. It'll get you very, very far.
It'll get you
industry.
very far. Yes, and LinkedIn. When we're talking about networking, you don't have to necessarily go to events to network. You can network on LinkedIn. I've made comments on posts before in regards to, minorities not really being hired or people who are qualified not really being hired over those who are not qualified. And I've had people from other CROs and sponsors reach out to me and say, hey, apply for this position and tell them that, I'm backing you or whatever. And I've gotten interviews that way.
Oh, even better. Do you slide in DMs? I don't know. I'm a slide.
I sure do. I always slide, okay? Especially if I see you. Did you like my comment? Okay, let me go on your profile. What do you do again? Hey, let me just, how are you? Thank you for, liking my comment. I see, you commented this, blah, 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 blah. It's a great way to open the door to conversation.
It definitely is. Have you always been on LinkedIn?
I've been on LinkedIn since 2014, but I haven't started using it until probably 2020 is when I really started using it.
Understood. So I know some people have trouble like figuring out what to post, what to comment, how to DM someone without, sounding too like unprofessional, but not overdoing it either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just like you would do like on Instagram. When you download Instagram, you're gonna, start looking at stuff just to kind of see, what's okay, what's not okay. You start following certain pages. So I think the best way to start is to probably link with your sisters and your brothers from, Black women and Black men in clinical research, minorities in clinical research. Start following certain pages that do with research. A lot of the CROs have their own pages that just kind of get information out there. And you'll start seeing people repost some of their posts. Give your thoughts and your opinions on their posts. comment under some of the posts. Even just saying, you know, a little congratulations here or there gets your name and your face in front of certain people, and it opens a lot of doors.
You're definitely right that LinkedIn has been my lifesaver over the past few years. As far as networking in person, do you have any tips for that? 'Cause I know it's a little different because it could be, anxiety talking to people.
Yes, and I am super awkward when I'm in spaces that I'm not comfortable in.
You too.
so and I feel so crazy and I feel so strange. And honestly, I'm glad the last event that I went to, Danielle was there, because it was like I was able to just kind of latch on a little bit, not like, creepy. I'm always like on your back, but just kind of slide over, like, oh, I see you're talking to these people. These people look interesting. Let me just kind of slide over and listen in and, see what's going on. And so that's something that I also suggest. If you're not comfortable, maybe find somebody that you are comfortable with, or maybe, find somebody from the group who is going to an event and say, hey, do you mind, hanging out with each other and just kind of, seeing what happens from there. And then that talkative person will start talking to this person, and then you will be pulled into the conversation. And then the night is the rest of the night after that.
So like a network buddy or a conference,
Yes.
a conference buddy.
Got to have it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotta have it.
So let's see. I have one question. I believe, Crystal, are you here as well?
It might be her with that number. I'm not sure. And someone has their hand raised, but I can't see who.
Okay, let me check and see. I can't see who has their hand raised.
Oh, it's Beatrice.
Hey.
Hey.
Oh, should I go or should we go for the person in the chat?
We are going, I just have one more question to ask, and I believe Crystal is trying to, you have to, she had to, her audio, something's going on with her audio. I can't unmute you. So Jazmin, could you help her out and see?
Yeah, I
So,
don't either.
okay. So like we were saying before, Courtney, with the CRA apprentice program, can you talk more about that? Is it to where, how many weeks is the program? What exactly are they? I guess if you can give like an overview of kind of, what exactly the program is about, and kind of, do you have tests or assignments? Do you have to pass the test, or, at the end, do you have to take like a knowledge test? How is that set up?
So it is set up super easy for anyone who is afforded the opportunity to join the program. It's a year-long program. And basically what they do is they take you through each level of the clinical operations portion. So from clinical trial coordinator to assistant CRA to CRA. And so it's the 3 different sections. Each section has its own focus. So I think the CTC role is 6 months long, and then the assistant CRA/CRA role is another 6 months long. There are no necessarily, there aren't any tests necessarily. Of course, there's training that you have to do as you would do with any job that you're coming into. But as far as like certain milestones you have to hit, it's just like with any other position that you would be working towards. So you would hit your certain metrics, and then move on to the next thing. So you are an employee of the company when you do the apprenticeship program. And so once you technically graduate the academy is when you become a CRA1.
Okay. So you have studies, even though you are technically not finished with the program.
Oh, yes. Yes, I have been assigned studies as a clinical trial coordinator currently. So
Oh,
I
okay.
currently have 2 studies that I'm working on.
Okay. Okay. And do you
Mhm.
feel like with that, do you feel like you have a lot of sites or?
So one of my studies is in a startup. And so from what I can see, there are a lot of sites, but I'm not the only one handling those sites, thankfully. Um, but also, even though I haven't had any experience in this particularly before, they don't set you up for failure, if that makes sense. They definitely set you up for success. So you definitely have someone QAing and QCing your work. You definitely meet with your manager to discuss, what's going on, what you understand, what you don't understand, where you may need to be retrained, where you're doing really well. They definitely set you up for success within this program.
Well, that's good. That's good that they provide that support. A lot of times with the training programs, they're usually short or they are, maybe, 12 weeks or, something even less than that. So it's good that they give you an opportunity to come in from like the ground level and have that foundation that's needed in
Yes.
order to be successful instead of just, hey, we're going to give you this 4-week training and then we're going to let you out and do it on your own. So,
and I think that's what the other program is. I think the other program, the CRA Academy, is only 10 or 12 weeks, and then you're on your own. So, and I don't think I would be ready for that. Like, that's very fast paced. So yeah, this is a very unique program, and they definitely take pride in it for its uniqueness and how everyone who's gone through it so far has been able to progress. So I'm excited about it.
May I ask a question?
sure.
Can you describe your training? Like, was it remote and then you go into the field, or a little bit of both, or how was your training?
So how it's been described to me, because I'm not complete yet. How it's been explained to me is during the entire apprenticeship program, it is remote. And once we get into the CRA portion is when we will definitely be able to shadow a CRA to just see what the day-to-day is, kind of a system along, with the site visits and things like that. Be able to see, the different ways that they kind of train and, check out what they need to check out. But that doesn't come until the end. So everything else is done remotely. And that's just based off of this particular company because, their efforts during COVID when everyone was remote were so great that they're just trying to make everything as remote as possible.
Gotcha. Well, that's good to know that they definitely accommodated with that. Are you excited to transition?
I am excited to transition. But there's also a lot of things that are just going on right now within the company itself. So I'm just excited to see how that works out. But as far as me personally, I'm definitely excited to transition. I was very anxious starting out because I didn't know a lot. And it was just, you do your trainings. There are a lot of trainings that you do that you would normally do if you come in as a regular employee. But being given trials and just kind of like, okay, let's see what you can do. It's like, all right, kind of nervous, but it's been fun. It's been interesting. It's been a great learning experience. Nothing too hard. It's just been great.
Don't be nervous, girl. You got it. I was nervous
I
too.
know.
Like very, very nervous.
I'm scared of failure. I do not want to fail.
You
I put
won't
that on
fail.
myself. Yeah. And
You'll
that's
just learn
the other
from
thing.
it.
Yep.
Right,
Learn from your mistakes.
And remember, you don't know what you don't know. You can't help that you don't know it, but you're going to know it after this.
I've literally heard that 3 times in 3 different meetings this week. So that just confirms, clinical research as a whole is no matter what end of the spectrum that you're working in, everyone is aware that coming into it, especially brand new, you don't know what you don't know. And the situations that you're put in are essentially created for you to learn, because that's the best way to do it, you know?
Exactly.
So let's go ahead and take some questions. I know Beatrice had her hand up.
Hey,
Hey,
just quick question. Well, Courtney, first, I love how you said about the whole having a buddy to go to events. I think that is a great idea, and that would be super helpful because networking is hard. But but my question for you, coming to the civilian side, what are, like 3 skills that you had from your background that really translated well and that were transferable?
I think for me, being able to deal with people at different levels and meeting them where they are. So understanding how to converse with not just peers, but superiors as well. I know that's one thing that we definitely learn in the military world, is just how to converse in a professional manner to be able to get the job done. Another thing for me is just my research skills. That is one thing that, especially as a enlisted soldier or as an NCO, one of the things that we do all the time, we're always looking for something. We might not know the answer, but we have all these, doctrines and regulations and things that we can search to find the answers. And it's the same in research. You have SOPs, you have, policies, you have, your the word is escaping me. Your protocols. You have all of that stuff in front of you to be able to search through to find any answer that you need. And that's really like the best thing that you can ever have, is your research skills. And then your ability to just, work in an organized chaos and be able to handle chaos, because that's kind of what it is all the time.
so being able to handle
That's great.
pressure.
Oh yeah.
And
Thriving
pressure
under
and
pressure.
stress, and not like ready to pull your hair out or flip your laptop over, or
Throw a table.
right.
We've
Yes.
all done it in our head, but we've still managed to get the job done at the end of the day.
Yeah, you be like, I don't have to take this, I'm gonna quit. And, okay, so we have another question in the chat.
Danielle, if I could jump in on this one, I think another important skill that you don't know that you have, but that you do have, is, being in the military, you're dealing with people from all different walks of life, different countries, different backgrounds, and clinical research is definitely a global community. So you will work with a lot of people from a lot of different countries. And so I think that's an advantage that you have, because whereas somebody is, is not well traveled or well versed, and then you get someone from, let's say, for example, if you have someone from an African country, they're just very straightforward, and then somebody could be put off by that. And it's just the way that they do business. So, we have those particular transferable skills, not only just professional, but psychosocial skills, and learning other people's ways of life, and immersing ourselves in their culture. So culturally, you'll be ahead of the game, so to speak. Once you start, or once you get into this field and you realize that this is a very globally and culturally diverse population you'll be working with.
Thank you. So I didn't get a chance to introduce her. This is Crystal Strouder, everyone. And so Crystal, do you want to give any background information about yourself, you know, how you started in the industry?
Sure. Well, hi everyone. I am so sorry. I'm fresh off of a plane. This is the life of a CRA. But and so I'm so sorry that I'm late. But I want to tell you that I was 17 years Air Force. And I got into clinical research through the grace and the wonderful information I received from my sister. She was the one who really introduced me to this. And she says, hey, you know, sometimes you don't know, like, and when you're transitioning out, we've all had that feeling of, what is my purpose? What is it
Mhm.
now? This was my life. This was my career. Um, what do I do now? And so you're stuck. And so she said, hey, this is the perfect career for you. You need to come over to clinical research. And I was like, what? And she said, well, you know, I flew aerovac, so I knew I didn't want to go back to the hospital. I knew that I did not want to be behind a desk 24/7. That's just not me, especially after, you know, going all over the world and, you know, experiencing the best of both worlds, nursing and travel. It was just the best. So, and I didn't think that I would be able to recreate that kind of career path. And she introduced me to this. And then I applied and I applied and I applied and nothing, nothing, nothing. And she really advocated on my behalf and, you know, got me my first job. And I will tell you, that is the way that we're going to have to do it for each other, is we're going to have to advocate on each other's behalf. And, you know, I might be a little impartial because I do work for PPD, but they are really, really leaning into veterans.
They
They
really
want,
are. I'm sorry. They are.
they want you,
They do.
and they will come after you. And so it's up to us. We have the inside information. We know what's going on. And so I have really, really made myself open to you guys sliding on up into my DMs and asking questions. And you know, and I've really, really been helpful about that, because we do help each other. You know,
Mhm.
we need each other. Because we all know that they tell us, oh yeah, you know, your skills are transferable, but they don't tell us how to transfer those skills. They don't tell us, you know, how to do certain things. So you're kind of like it's like the blind leading the blind. And even if you transition out of the military with a degree, it's still difficult because now
Mhm.
you're having to translate all of this military jargon and all of those skills into and make it make sense. Well, PPD decided, okay, we have all these veterans that work here, then you guys can help us make these resumes make sense. So, you know, and that's what they've done to try to pull people in and saying, yeah, these are the people that we do want. So I think that, you know, my career path was unconventional, so to speak. I did not start entry level. I I started as a senior CRA. I didn't so I didn't have the natural career path that a lot of people had coming into this industry. I kind of started from the top and had to just work it out, you know. But I can tell you that this has been one of the most rewarding things, and this is like, I can't believe I get paid to do this. I love my job. Um, and so you just have to, once you get in, you just have to find your place, because you might come through the academy and you might say, I don't know. But as you're finding your way through the academy, they're exposing you to different parts of clinical research, and you can
Mhm.
figure out what you like the best. So, or what you're interested in. And don't be afraid to reach out to other people or other colleagues and say, hey, I've never heard of this job title. What is it that you do? and you just have to network it in. And networking doesn't come natural to everybody, but I can tell you, we're going to help you get there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I like to do introductions. When members reach out to me, I don't know, I feel like I have a good memory when someone says, oh, hey, Danielle, or for example, like I'm in the military, I'm trying to get in. I'm like, okay, let me reach out to Crystal, let me reach out to Courtney. So I do a good job of trying to pull everyone together if they reach out to me and they tell me that they're looking for I don't know, a certain person, or they're looking for a certain position. So I do have a couple of questions for you, Crystal.
Yes.
So the benefits, I know a lot of times, you know, with the military and the military benefits, and how do the military benefits transfer over in, I guess, the CRO world as far as their benefits?
Okay. So one of the things that that I like to talk about is when you're transitioning, 9 times out of 10, you have a family, you know, and you're like, oh my God, I'm getting out. What's going to happen with my healthcare benefits? What's going to happen, you know, with my 401k? What's going to happen with all this stuff? And so you're scrambling and you're trying to find a job, and there's a lot of fears, there's a lot of anxiety. You know, how am I going to make up this income? And especially if you were the active duty member and you're like, oh my God, you know, what am I going to do? So I will tell you that the CROs, they have top-notch benefits. You know, and not only that, um, you know, you can and don't be afraid to talk about the money. And you know, it, well, how much does this pay? Because at the end of the day, you still have to feed your family. And so you have to do something that works. Or if you know upfront what the benefits are, what the pay is, what you're going to be getting, then maybe you can make that adjustment, or you and your spouse, or if you're a single parent, you can make those adjustments to say, okay, Monday through Friday, I'm doing this job. And, you know, maybe I need to pick up a little piece of part-time. There's contract work. There's all kinds of things that you could do, you know, to supplement that income until you can get where you need to be. And so it's just a matter of reaching out and saying, you know what, this is, you know, active duty. We know if you've been in for 10 or 15 years, you know, your pay scale, you've worked up there. You've worked up to, you know, you might be at E6, 7, 8, 9. Well, when you translate over, you come over, I can tell you it's probably going to be a little bit of a pay cut, because you're not going to have the housing allowance. You're not going to have your BAH. You're not going to have your BAS. You're not going to have all of that stuff. So you have to factor that in. And that's why you have to be, now, when you're transitioning in, you're not, I have to say, they have kind of a set salary that they're going to start you at, because they have to train you. And so just expect and know that you're kind of starting over again, so to speak. Not necessarily with your skill set, because your skill set is going to get you paid quicker. But when you're transitioning in, you're going to have to start at a certain pay, because that's just the way that the CRO world goes, because they're giving you a lot of training. And when I tell you, once you get the training, once you're in, you are in. And so then you can start making demands as you start to get more experience. But on the front end, you know, a lot of people are anxious because they're taking pay cuts. They're, you know, they're trying to figure it out, and how am I going to manage this, and, you know, that kind of thing. Or you're getting out and your spouse is still in, and, you know, and now he or she still have their career. And now you're just like, oh my gosh, you know, and now your livelihood, your card is no longer green, because, you know, we're good about that. Excuse me, my card, you know, my ID card is green too. Okay. I've said that 1,000 times. Okay. So,
Not
and
just
now, yes. And so those are the things that I would say, like, you know, expect that you may have to take a pay cut. But I can tell you it's going to be short term. In the long term, it will be the best decision. I'm telling you, you know, the money will come. I'm telling you, I promise you, the money will come. You just want to be able to get in here and get that skill set. And so I know, let me just say, PPD offers tuition reimbursement. They do offer, you have all kinds of business resource groups you can join. If you're traveling, you do get your per diem, and it is the government rate. You get your per diem, you get your meals and lodging and per diem, and that's pretty, and that's, and then if you spend so many nights out a month, you get an extra bonus. So, they have all kinds of little perks that help to make up for that gap. And trust me, that per diem, it adds up very quickly. So, I had one of my colleagues, and she was like, I'm taking a big pay cut. I'm taking like a $20,000 pay cut to come over to be a CRA. And I said, well, you'll get your per diem, you'll get things like that, you'll get your bonuses. We do get annual bonuses. And they average to be between $5,000 and $7,000. And I like to talk money because let's be honest, let's talk the money, so you'll know what to expect, and you'll know what you're getting. But it depends on when you started with the company. So if you start early on in the bonus cycle, you'll get your full bonus. If you start late in the bonus cycle, you'll get a partial bonus. If you start within two or 3 months of the bonus cycle, like being closed out, you might not get a bonus, but you will get a bonus the following year.
I didn't get one. I didn't stay at PPD long enough to get one. And then I think if I would have stayed at PPD probably for one more month, they told me I would have got a bonus. I was like, oh goodness. But yeah, I think
because of inflation and everything, they're giving inflationary incentives, they're giving micro bonuses. So they are doing things that is making up for the loss of income that you would get. Now I do have I'm very open about it. And in this industry, you will find that people are very open about talking about their pay because they want you to get your money. You see what I'm saying? So we're like, girl, get your money, And so
Get it out.
yes, so we take care of each other in that respect. And we don't mind sharing. And I think as time goes on, people are just more open, and especially women, we advocate for each other. We want each other to win, and I can tell you, because and especially if you're a veteran, oh honey, I'm going to take care of you because I want you to win. I want you to win because you deserve to win. And so any other questions y'all may have about benefits and pay, but we do have great benefits. Like we have Delta Dental, that we're going over to, I believe, a new healthcare plan because Thermo Fisher bought us out. So we're going to transition over, and I've heard it's really good. So if it's better than what we have, it's still, we have great benefits. So even better will be even better. So any questions about that? Do you guys have any specific questions about pay, benefits, or anything like that?
So I wanted to ask you a question too before we go into the audience questions.
Okay.
So what advice do you have for someone who is a veteran that's interested in a career in clinical research?
So I would strongly suggest that you network. LinkedIn is a valuable network. Do not underestimate LinkedIn. And blindly go into people's inboxes. You can come into my inbox anytime because I answer each and every one. And Danielle will tell you that. I answer each and every one, and I will give you my telephone number. I will call you. Sometimes I'm on the road and I'll tell you, listen, I'm flying right now, but let me get to my hotel, or I'm on site right now. Let me get to my hotel and I will call you. Sometimes I forget because I get a little busy, but if you come right back into my inbox, I say, give me your number right now and I'll call you right now. So, I'm very, very good about that. I don't have a problem with you having my number because like I said, a lot of time, you're apprehensive about asking. Oh no, you can ask whatever you want because knowledge is power, and you can't make a full thought out decision if you don't have the information. And I'm all about information.
I can't
Yeah,
remember
I
if
can attest to
I can't sorry. I can't remember if I introduced you and Courtney together. I think I
that. You did.
Yeah.
okay,
Mhm.
okay. I think I did because I was
Yeah.
a lot of times like I do so much connecting and like moving pieces and I'm like, I think I might have introduced them to each other.
You did, and I will say, Crystal, she will answer that phone. She will call you back. She will tell you everything you need and want to know, and ask you if you want to know more.
Yeah. And I am not afraid because I was like, okay, let's get to it. Let's talk about the money. She was like, yes, that's what I really want to talk about. Okay, let's talk about the money because those are things that you need to know. Y'all have families, y'all have children. You just need to know.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So we got some audience questions. One person had put in the chat earlier, do you have to relocate for the apprenticeship program?
No. You do not. Everything is done remotely. In whatever region you're in, and when it comes time for you to shadow a CRA, if we get to the point where we'll be doing actual on-site visits, then they will put you with someone who is in your region.
Okay, thank you. So another person, I feel like we talked about this. They asked about the annual pay at entry level, and I remember Courtney had said 50,000. Kind of was the entry level salary.
It is right around 50,000 for a CRC level 1.
And I think with the program, the academy, it escalates as you go through it, right?
It does. Once you transition from your CRC to your RSM well, now they're assistant CRAs. Once you transition to that role, your pay increases. And then once you transition from the ACRA role to the CRA role, your pay increases from hourly pay to salary pay.
Salary. Mm-hmm.
So you kind of go through different positions when you're in the program. So you start as a CTC and then, okay, so the CTC, okay.
Because they want you to know, they want you to know each level so that you understand as a CRA what each level would need from you so that there is no like backlog. From what I understand, there used to be a lot of lag in communication of what certain positions needed for their particular job. So going through this program, getting to the CRA level, you already know what your CTC and what your ACRA needs from you. So it's already there and it helps smooth along the trials.
So I know I had this question as well come up. So military spouses, can they also apply for the military, the CRA apprenticeship program?
Yes, they can.
Okay. So that is good to know because I know I've had people reach out to me as well. We're like, what about me? I want to get in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My cohort is half and half. There's 3 veterans and 3 spouses in my cohort.
Okay. So Nakia is asking a question. She said, is the CTC and CRC the same position?
From what I understand, based on my research, yes.
Okay, so I know like at the site level that they are a little different. So like for me, from my experience, like the CRC is at the site level. Mm-hmm. And then the CTC position is at the CRO level.
So the CTC handles like the documents and those kinds of things, primarily, if I'm not mistaken. And because, and let me tell you, this is I think this is excellent that they are rotating y'all in and out of these roles because, like I said, I started from the top and I had to understand it from that level. So the learning curve was way bigger for me. But thank God my military skills, I had to learn it very quickly and, I did. So, but to bring y'all through this way, matriculating you through the roles, I think is really is excellent, and it's going to help you to understand why you do what you do.
Oh yeah,
Right.
I'm already seeing the fruits of that currently with a lot of the things that I'm currently doing in my trials.
Yeah.
You have to have that foundation, that
Mhm.
foundation that helps you, so that when you get to that, I mean, depends on what type of person you are. Like Crystal, she a boss because she was able to start from the top, and you like have to step out on faith and say like, okay, well, I'm just gonna have to learn this, but that
Right.
like you said, it is very good that they are, bringing you guys in like a slow transition, because the
Absolutely.
industry usually is super fast paced. It's either sink or swim type of mentality a lot of times. Once you come onto the CRO level, they don't really have a whole lot of time to train you. You really need to pick it up quickly to do your job successfully. But the industry, I mean, I would say they have buddies, they have study buddies that you can have, they have mentors. So you ever feel like you are lost, Black Women in Clinical Research has a lot of teams.
Resources.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm gonna say, if especially if you reach out to someone in the group, there might be I know I created the teams at PPD, so PPD has a teams. I'm gonna say Premier Research, Cineos, Jazmin's in the Cineos ones, Icon. So it's just amazing the reach that we have been able to have within the industry and the support. So if you are at any of these major CROs, more than likely there is a BWICR chat, and there are people that you can reach out to that want to help you and want you to, I would say, excel and succeed at your position. So Sydney had asked this question, but Courtney had already answered this. The program, she said, is a year long, right, Courtney?
Yes.
Okay. I know we have kind of went over on time, so I just want to, PPD BWICR teams is very active. That's what Dr. Jazmin said. So before we leave, between Crystal and Courtney, do y'all have any final words that you want to say for any veterans that are listening in?
I think I would like to say, just keep pressing forward. Your time will come because your skills are transferable. Don't ever get into a mode where you feel like it's not happening for you. It's just not your time yet, but we'll get you there. Trust me.
And one of the other things I would like to offer as well is, if you feel like, because a couple of ladies I did refer to the call center and they did get hired. And at this juncture in time, they felt like this is what was best for their family needs, because the husband was still active duty. So if you guys are interested in working in the call center, and I can just briefly explain that all of the information, let's say, for example, what is the lisinopril that's blowing up everybody's lips and stuff?
My father.
Okay, so then they tell you to call a 1-800 number. And this is, I learned this myself. That's how I started referring people, for the call center positions, is that all of the 1-800 number, it goes through PPD. They report those AEs and SAEs, which would be serious adverse events. And those are then, that database is then transferred over to the companies, the sponsor companies, which would be the drug companies, Eli Lilly, Merck, or whatever the drug is that they are dealing with. And then they transfer that information to the FDA. And that's how those commercials are done, saying, the FDA is making a recall because lisinopril is causing people to, their lips to swell or closing off their airway. So that is, and so like when you get hired for the call center, you'll be either on the Eli Lilly team, the Merck team, or something like that. And so that is a quick entry into clinical research as well. And so basically you will be fielding and answering questions based on the product insert on those drug in the drug packaging. So that's what that's dealing with, if you're interested in that. And then, you know, at some point you can reach out to me, inbox me, and I can talk to you more about it.
Okay. And ladies, if you haven't had a chance, could you please drop your LinkedIn URL in the chat so that way that we can connect with everyone? And Jazmin, same question for you. Do you have any last words?
I wouldn't say I have any last words. Just keep pressing on. It'll come due time. Trust me.
Okay.
It could be a long time coming, but it's gonna come. And when it does, you're gonna be like,
Right. So some of the takeaways, I like to jot down notes. Some of the takeaways, you know, when we have these meetings and some of the things that have been said here is you can't expect to know everything. They're going to train you. So I know it can be a little bit scary with transitioning. You know, it's almost like you're going into a whole new career. So it's okay to ask questions, to start networking. I really like what Courtney said earlier. Start networking before you remove the uniform.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's very useful information because you think, okay, well, I'm just going to start once I'm not in the military anymore, then I'm going to start. But, you know, if you want to move through this expeditiously, you definitely have to start as soon as possible. And we also talked about Google is your best friend. So don't be afraid to Google. You know, it's always good when you can have some information about, you know, clinical research before you reach out to someone, you know, so you're not going into it blindly. So you have some type of idea what it is you want to do. And like Courtney was saying, if you have like she was saying, Google clinical research finance and, you know, different things like that to really see, because there is not a roadmap for if you are from the military and going into clinical research and what position is the best fit for you. So please feel free to reach out to any of us, any of the speakers. And I just want to tell everyone, have a good night. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
My
Bye.
pleasure.
Thank you. Yes, please reach out to us, guys. We will definitely